Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's the Clumsy Shark here, back for another video. Today I just have a game I thought was really nice. So I wanted to show it to all of you. So, without further ado, let's get into it. He opens with e4, and I'm just recently kind of starting to learn how to play the Sicilian defense. So that's what we replied with. It goes with knight f3, so I'm expecting an open Sicilian. And the Sicilian I play is the knight c6. I'm trying to learn how to play the accelerated dragon. I was expecting our opponent to go with the d4 and strike in the center to open up, but he instead played d3, which was quite unexpected. And honestly, like, it was a weird move because like it just blocks off the its light squared bishop, so that piece was definitely not happy there. So after seeing this, I decided to play just knight f6. We're developing our knight. In this case, I'm not too worried because if he ever decides to push his pawn, is you can just play knight g4 and you're actually attacking this pawn twice, and it's only defended once. And the queen actually is blocked by the knight, so it can't really do anything against this knight. So that's why I wasn't too worried about it. So our opponent goes for knight g5. I didn't see it as like a big of a threat, so I just decided to play h6 to kind of just kick that knight out, tell it like, what are you doing here? And then my opponent kind of shocked me, and he decided to take on f7, which I didn't really like see what his follow up was. If he decided to like kind of, he couldn't really play with his queen. His light score bishop was kind of gone, so I just decided to take it. Yeah, we're no longer able to castle, but it's no worries. Sometimes we'll just have to manually castle. Our opponent just decides to play knight c3, just developing the knight. I used to play d6, so then kind of it protects against e5, even though it's not really a danger at the moment. But it also just opens up her bishop, so it can be like developed. And our opponent pounces with knight d5, kind of putting pressure on this knight. But I wasn't too worried about it, so I just decided to push e6 to just kick the knight away and force the trade of knights, would actually end up happening. In this case, I decided to just recapture with our queen, because not only does it like our queen is active and putting pressure along this file and this diagonal, it also allows our kind of dark square bishop to come in behind. So he just decides to develop his bishop. I was expecting just a castle in the next move, so I just developed our dark squared bishop so that we could move our rook to f8 and then just bring our king to g8. Our opponent decided to just check our king, just kind of tucked our king to safety. The only thing I didn't really like about this move was just that like it kind of blocked off our rook. Opponent just castles, and then I proceeded to play king g7. I just felt that if our king was on g7, then we could actually utilize the g and f files for our rooks, and we could actually apply just a lot of pressure along these files onto the king. Definitely, I was afraid kind of bishop takes h6. Uh, but I thought after I calculated that kind of after I recaptured, kind of the G and F files would be open for both her rooks, so that's why I wasn't too worried. So opponent plays a3. Rook f8 was actually just meant so that like we create kind of a nice battery, but also if our queen was ever attacked and it just moved, if it moved anywhere else, it just meant that our rook had also access to the f file. Our opponent just develops his dark squared bishop, but I don't know, it's kind of good. Maybe he's like planning on pushing the pawn. Here I just decided to develop my light squared bishop so that I could connect my rooks and then like slide them along here if needed. It also kind of just prepares just the knight to move, and then it starts like opening up some other stuff. Here I was quite surprised when our opponent played just f3. I mean, besides just like yeah, creating a very solid pawn structure, uh, I don't know. I didn't really see like any like particular use in that move. I mean, just it kind of weakens the dark squares, but here I kind of noticed that like our light squared bishop wasn't very active, so by moving it down here, we're threatening the light squared bishop that's clearly undefended, and by playing f3, actually, he blocks the queen's defense of the bishop. So this I kind of wanted to force a trade so that I could also slide my rook over, and we could just bring all of our pieces to the side where the king was castled. Except our opponent did not want to trade bishops, so he just moves it moves it to apply bit more pressure onto our pawn here. Except I didn't really want to like let him have it that easily, so I just decided to apply more pressure onto the bishop with our knight, and pretty much like its only square is just to go back to h3, which our opponent actually does. Kind of what I was thinking uh, when I played g5 was just I just wanted to pressure our opponent as much as we could, like just not give him any time to breathe. Just kind of where we're kind of threatening to open up the position, and our opponent just decided to reply with f4, just kind of challenge us. It's kind of a good move, just attacking both our pawn and attacking our knight as well. So of course we decided to just take, so that we just apply pressure to the bishop. Here I was actually expecting our opponent to take with the rook, except he decided to just move his bishop away. After I saw him move the bishop back, I just realized that like kind of our pawn was under just a lot of pressure, and I didn't really want our queen to just like have to defend it slowly. So I decided to push it up, because not only is our pawn defended by our knight, which is kind of just our piece of lower value, it's actually also we're threatening to kind of just like push the pawn up and kind of being a thorn there, checking the king. And we're never actually really threatening to take it because we can see like our queen's kind of in the way. And also, if we notice, by capturing the pawn here, the g file actually opened up. So our opponent just captures, which was fine by me, which actually isn't a very good move because like our rook, now we actually have an open view file straight at the king. So decide to just check the king. Here, kind of our opponent didn't really have any good moves. Like either he tucks the king back to h1, which kind of is what he did. They didn't actually push, like put their king on h1. What if they had played king f2? Actually, wasn't a very good move because then we can just check the king with our queen, and we actually end up picking up the bishop. That's not what our opponent decided to do. Our opponent decided to go for king h1, and here I decided to go bishop h5. As you can see here, we're actually pinning the queen. Pinning the queen. Oh boy, no, we're actually pinning the pawn to the queen. Didn't really want this pawn to kind of just like move forward and have to like force us to make a decision about our knight. And our opponent decides to just go for c3. Maybe he was trying to prepare to kind of like open up the center, which wasn't really ideal for me. I said to just take the pawn here. We're checking the king and the queen, so kind of our opponent is forced to take back. But yeah, our opponent kind of forced to take back, so goes in, takes with his rook, and then we just take back with the knight. We're also attacking the bishop, but we're also threatening rook g1 check, winning the queen. Take a look at our opponent's pieces right here. Our opponent has like 3 pieces that are on the queen side, and if we look at our pieces, we have 4 pieces that are on the king side. So we're threatening the king more than our opponent is threatening us, actually. And we almost have like a 5th one coming back into the action if we slide the rook to f8. So opponent just decides to move the queen. Maybe he probably saw some ideas of like queen g8 potentially mate. But also with this move, if the queen moves, but it also opens up the rook, so the rook can slide along the first rank and potentially contest the g file that we have. And then I just decided to bring in our last piece into the action. So then we kind of have maximal control of the G and F file. So we're actually applying a lot of pressure onto the king, and he decides to just play rook f1, just kind of pinning our knight to the queen. It's definitely threatening to win the knight back. Then I decided to just play queen g6. By also bringing the rook to f8, we can see that it's actually protecting the rook. By playing queen g6, that if our opponent was ever to play and capture the knight, we actually had a checkmate right here. But this is not what happened, and our opponent decided to play queen f2 to guard this square, as well preventing checkmate, and to like win the knight. Except, I don't know, it's not really great to like have your queen in front on a battery when there's like a rook on the opponent's side. And also by having the knight, this threatens all sorts of different like attacks onto the queen. I just did take the bishop, and Just by getting rid of this, we also have a discovered attack onto the queen. We are also threatening all different kinds of mates. So let's just say the queen kind of takes here, which is actually what happened in the game. We can finish it off with rook f1 check, bishop takes f1, and then we wrap things up with queen g1 checkmate. Yeah, hopefully you learned something new in this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.